For your health this morning, different types of fat on your body can be linked to different diseases, including heart disease and high blood pressure. Our health expert, Karen Nowak, is here with tips on how to lose that fat and lower the risk of some of those diseases. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Stephanie.
So, walk us through how, how different body types should be thinking about approaching the treatment to body fat.
Right, so we have the pear shape and then we have the apple shape. So the pear shape people tend to carry their weight below the equator in their hips, their buttocks, and their thighs. Now that's a different type of fat. There's also the apple shaped people who tend to carry it right there in the abdomen. So those people that are more apple shaped, the research shows that those people tend to have a higher risk for chronic diseases. So it's because of the fact that these fats are different.
And so walk us through how fats are different and how they accumulate on the body differently.
So the ones that for the pear-shaped people, they tend to be more of the subcutaneous fat. So that is, if you've ever had a skin fold, the caliper test, think of this as subcutaneous fat. It's right underneath the skin and right above the muscle. So it's stuff that you can actually pinch and measure. So that's the subcutaneous fat. The other fat that's in your belly tends to be the visceral fat. Viscera is your internal organs. Now this is the one that's really dangerous. So visceral fat tends to embed around the visceral organs, the heart, the lungs, the liver. And then also there's a sheet in front of what's apron-like tissue that's in front of these organs, and that will tend to fill up with fat. If you've ever noticed some people that have the beer belly, it tends to be very hard, and that's the dangerous visceral fat.
And what sort of diseases are linked to visceral fat, and why is it a health risk?
So we have the links are heart disease, high blood pressure because the visceral fat actually secretes a protein that constricts blood vessels. Also cancers of the pancreas, the breast, the colon, esophagus, dementia, and also diabetes. And I really want to emphasize dementia because we think of dementia as something that kind of just happens to us, but it's very tightly associated with our lifestyle. So Kaiser Permanente did a study of 6,500 men and women and followed them for 37 years, and they concluded that more visceral fat equals a higher risk of dementia.
And how much belly fat is too much? Does it depend on the person?
That's a good question. So the way to measure it, you can actually get an accurate measurement through an MRI scan, but the best way, easy way, is to just measure your waistline. So measure it right there at the umbilicus, your belly button, and then go right around. And your waist measurement should be no more than half of your height in inches. So if you are 72 inches tall, and your abdomen should be no more than 36 inches in the waistline.
Now, can thinner people also have visceral fat as well?
Yeah, so thinner people, they did research on these thinner people, and yes, they can have visceral fat, even with people that followed a healthy diet. So a lot of it is tied to inactivity as well as diet and heredity.
All right, so the big question for me then is, how can we lose the belly fat?
So number one, reduce alcohol intake. That's how they got that nickname beer belly, because when you drink a lot of alcohol, the liver has to metabolize the alcohol, so it's not doing its job of metabolizing fat. So it starts to store. And then also they found that eating 10 grams of fiber, soluble fiber a day, like oatmeal and beans are a good source of soluble fiber. That helps to reduce the visceral fat by 4%. Eating less processed foods, because those are filled with salt and fats and trans fats. Those are the things that are going to contribute to abdominal fat. Also, stress is really important because stress increases the release of cortisol, which is associated with belly fat. So belly fat also, this visceral fat also secretes cortisol. So you're kind of on this vicious cycle of secreting it as well as storing it. So real important to reduce your stress and get plenty of sleep.
Yeah, and I think exercise is also going to help a lot with that too as well.
Actually, that's a real important component. So moving more. I just have to emphasize, if you are carrying a lot of belly fat, it is so important to start addressing it today to reduce that, because of its link to dementia and heart disease and all these chronic diseases that we don't really have to be dealing with if we cut down on the belly fat.
Yeah, great tips and advice. That's Karen Owak, our health expert here at Prong 4. We appreciate your time this morning.